So today I want to talk to you about evaluating impact. So I'm not talking about doing this on a whole school level. How do you, as a teacher, evaluate the impact that you have within a lesson? Okay, so what I'm really going to focus on is 3 great ways that I've seen and I've used that really allow you to evaluate the impact of your teaching. Okay, so the first key way, it's really old school, everyone does it, so I'm sure you guys will be doing it, but using whiteboards. Okay, so you get every single kid, you give them a little mini whiteboard, and basically at the end of the lesson you might get 3 questions, you might stick them on the board, you might say to them, okay, you've got 30 seconds to answer these, and you let them answer them in those 30 seconds, and then they hold up the whiteboards, okay? And then you can see what they know. Now, I'm just going to take it a little bit further about what you might do then. So, if they hold up those boards and everyone's got the right answer, then okay, that's great. You might think, okay, my question isn't necessarily challenged them enough, but at least you've got that feedback. However, if you have a situation where some of the students don't have the right answers, what do you do then? Okay, what do you do about that? Now, that's a really key question. If you just leave it and carry on, then yeah, you know that they don't know, but you haven't actually addressed that issue. So one argument that I think is quite powerful is to stop, say to the whole class, pick out a person that's got a great answer. You don't want to stand that person up who's got a poor answer, and you get that person with a great answer to explain why their answer is great. Okay, you get them to say, look, you have got a great answer, that's fantastic. What, can you tell me more detail about it? Okay, and then that allows that student that maybe didn't do quite so well to then you can say to them, okay, you've got another 30 seconds, I want you to re-answer that question and you know, change what you've put, and let's come up with some great answers. Now, that may not work with every single question. I appreciate you may even have a question that doesn't have a right or wrong answer. In that case, that's fine, that's a different situation. But what I'm talking about is the situation where you do have a right or wrong answer, and you can enable those students to improve, but through the feedback you're getting. So the next thing about whiteboards is some little mini tips. First of all, always give them a time limit. Okay, so always say you've got 30 seconds to do that, you've got a minute to do that, and always keep that time limit so it's fairly tight, because otherwise you find that students will finish early, and when they finish early it means they end up in chat, they end up comparing their answers, changing their answers, and obviously then you don't get that feedback on how those pupils are doing, which is obviously very useful. When you want to hold the whiteboards up, make it really clear. Every time you do it, do the same thing. So it might be that you go 3, 2, 1, hold the boards up. Okay? But if you do the same action every time, whatever you decide, then you know you will get the students will learn, and they'll know that then they've got to put the pens down, hold the boards up, and it makes for a much cleaner finish. My next sort of feedback idea that I really love, and I think I've seen in some really great situations, is basically, lots of people call it Thinkpairshare, okay? And the idea is you go, look, here's a question, and you go, you need to think about it on your own. It tends to be quite an open question, so obviously you want to encourage open questions anyway, but to keep them, the more open the better, because then they can have a real think about it. You then say to them, right, join up with the person next to you, the pair, or you might already have group pupils into pairs, which is great. Talk about it with them, and then after that period of time, you then get to share it with a bit larger group. Okay? And then finally, the final thing is you select randomly a student to feedback what their ideas are. So over that whole period, they've managed to fine-tune the answer. That is a really good way of getting the feedback from the class. You get a good dialogue going, because you can get people to come and say, okay, why do you think your answer is better than theirs, or why do you think theirs is better than yours? That's a really effective way of engaging the class in some dialogue. The last one that I think is brilliant, and I think that is a really good way to get feedback. One reason why is you get it and you can keep it, and that's to use post-it notes. Now, a really boring way to use post-it note is just to simply say at the end of the lesson, here's a question, can you answer on the post-it note, bring it up to the board and stick it on the board, and I'll keep it. Okay, and I think, okay, yeah, you do get some feedback, it's great, it's quite powerful, you can take that feedback away, but I've seen some really good lessons that divide the board up to 4, and they've said, look, what have I learned this lesson? What did I find to be the hardest part? What was the easiest part? And then a really strong one is, what do I want to know now? What has that led me on to want to know now? Now that's great feedback as a teacher, because you find out all the bits you really need to know. Is it, have they understood what they've done today? But you also find out, okay, which students need to focus on certain areas, and also what in next lesson, how can I incorporate some of these ideas that they're sharing with me into my lesson? And that'll really just enable you to engage them further. You're saying, okay, actually last lesson you did want to know this, this really follows on, so I'm going to cover that section. So that's quite a good idea around how to involve the students actually in the discussion and involve them in the direction of the lesson. So there's been 3 ideas there. Whiteboards being one of them, but be careful, make sure you really keep strict time limits and make sure they hold them all up at the same time. The second one was Thinkpairshare, which is obviously a really good way of getting feedback but also creating a class dialogue. And the final one was using the post-it notes, which really does have its benefits in the sense you get to keep the feedback and you can get a lot more detail. So what I'd love, guys, is if you want to try any of those out yourself, or if you already use them and you find them really strong, just add something in the comments or tweet me at Steve House TV. You can get me on Facebook or even Instagram or Snapchat. Any ideas that you've got, I'd love to get them, I'd love to share them around, and I'd love to get in a discussion with you. I'm producing another video tomorrow that I hope you can get involved with as well.